This is going to be a really fun show. I can tell you that right now. I'm joined by a plethora. That's my word of the day. A plethora of radio show hosts. Let's get to it here. I've got my good friend Stephen Roberts from Cancel the Cabal. Hi, Stephen.
Hello, Rick.
We got James Swagger from Capricorn Radio.
Hi,
James.
Great to be here.
Thank you, sir. We got Michael Stephen, live Mike from, I don't know where the heck he's from.
Good to be with you, Rick.
And then we got our special guest, the hostess with the mostest. That's Susanne. I think you pronounce it Susanne Posel. Is that right? Posel. Okay. Well, pardon me for that.
That's fine.
Boy, I'm excited about tonight and what's coming. I know it's going to be a little bit of a sobering type of show. No punches held back here. You know, before we get into the subject, of course, as everyone knows, as all the listeners have tuned into this show for a specific reason, we're bringing forth another edition of your latest exposure to Pete Santilli. And Susan, give us the meat here. What happened?
Well, for about a week, Pete Santilli was messing around with members of Anonymous from 4chan and being very rude and threatening them. And so they went into his computer and extracted documents and put them up on a website. And one of the members of the Pete Santilli Victims Coalition that Vinny Eastwood set up on Facebook sent me the link to the website that Anonymous put up. So I took a look. It's only 4 pages. And the first thing that caught my eye was the documents page, not the facts, the items on the right-hand side and then subsequent below. Because at a time when Pete Santilli was cyberstalking me and harassing me on the internet, spoofing my emails, sending emails that looked like it was sent by me to people that I knew, other people that I had relationships with in the movement who came on my radio show and I had friendships with, and later on ended up having someone hack my website. I had an attorney write him a letter, and they emailed it as well as mailed it to his house. So I know what his address is. I've also done background checks on him, all public knowledge, all Westlaw material, nothing, no access to his social security number or anything like that. Anything in the criminal, civil, or any licenses he's had, any business licenses, any driver's licenses, and where he's lived, and mortgages and things like that. Anything you can find on Westlaw. So I knew that the document that they put at the bottom that was sent from my attorney could have only come from his database. So they had to have been in his computer. So these documents are real.
Wow.
Okay? I know for a fact. They had information on there that I know only he, my attorney, and I have. Plus information that I've never released, the background check that I ran on him publicly. Never released it. And yet information that I had, and I looked at the screen and corresponded with the document, and the background check I have on him is quite thick. And it correlated. Information correlated. I knew for a fact that they had been in his site. He said that they were hacking his phone line, coming into his computer system, his Skype chat. They posted pictures, screenshots of Skype chat and comment threads that he has been in. So I have absolutely no reason not to believe that the facts that everyone is questioning, including a lot of people, a lot of the more higher profile people in alternative media have been calling me. In fact, in the last 2 days, I've been talking on the phone more than I ever have in my entire life. And I am surprised that many people have seen this article.
Wow.
But it's interesting to me. One of the people that called me, this was just very interesting. Joyce Riley from the Power Hour called me specifically to talk about the article. And she made a comment while we were talking on the phone that I thought was extremely interesting. She said that some of the people at GCN are very interested in knowing whether or not this information is true. So,
wow.
I guess some people are interested in this information. I don't know who those people are, but they happen to work with or for GCN.
Sorry, Susan, I just want to jump in. It's James here. Has he actually come out and refuted the facts in any way, publicly, in a statement or anything?
I listened to his broadcast in part today because I had my own radio show. And my husband downloaded and recorded it live because he's restricted access to his archives. So I'll go back and listen to the rest of it today. But I did catch a portion where he said that he is not going to respond to information that's just not accurate.
Wow, I actually meant in writing, like, I mean, on a blog somewhere or a pub statement, or, I mean, if that was me in his shoes and that happened and it wasn't true, I would want to refute that and publicly refute it and put it in a statement, an official statement. I think that would be protocol, you know.
Well, I agree, absolutely. That's why you release a press release, you know. But, and to my knowledge, he has not publicly, in written form, confirmed or denied or refuted or any, you know, responded at all. I don't know in totality, but to my knowledge at this time, he is not.
Stephen, were you going to say something?
No, that I was, but then I looked at the date, and that was actually October 19th, so that was a week and a half ago.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about that. October the 19th is. How long has this been going on, Susan? Is this something that he's been after you for a while, or is this recent?
Yeah, no, this was. I think it was about March or April of this year is when I left his show. He appeared on Vinnie Eastwood's show and liked the name Guerrilla Media and liked the icon and the website and the graphic artwork and wanted to get in on what Vinnie was doing. So Vinnie agreed, said that there should be an American base of the Guerrilla Media. The Guerrilla Media's intention was to give a platform to people who otherwise would not have a platform, to talk about their activism, to post YouTube videos or blogs or expose their work, be a member, you know, of following 20 guidelines that Vinnie had initiated and then Pete and I elaborated on, and so we came up with a core principal values, all three of us. I sat on 3 conference calls with Vinnie and Pete, setting this all up. My husband is a web designer, so he offered to design the website for them. And about 2 weeks into the project, I found out that Vinnie was not part of the project. I was on a phone call with Susanne Posel privately, and she told me that he didn't want to be part of the project. And that didn't make any sense to me because Vinnie's concept began in 2007 and he put up the website in 2009. So why would someone dedicate so many years, almost a decade, to an idea and then just drop it off? I called Vinnie and talked to him about it, and he said that Pete has not been responding to his emails or messages in Skype chat or taking any of his phone calls. So I told my husband to stop production on the website, and I told Susanna that I would not be appearing on their show that Monday. This happened over a weekend.
Susanne, can you just, for the listeners, perhaps just give us the rough outline of the facts and the severity of what the implications is of what's in it, and what the background of the actual details of this fax is?
Okay. The fax is a image of what looks to be a crumpled sheet of paper that was uncrumpled and probably scanned into a computer. It states that, I'm scrolling down in my article, it states that Pete Santilli was faxing the San Diego division of the FBI in Sacramento, California, and he was asking for assistance on Operation Outruck, O-U-T-R-U-C-K, sorry. And I verified that is the phone number for the Sacramento office. I also looked into a woman that he mentioned in the fax named Daphne Hearn. Daphne Hearn was handpicked by former FBI Director Robert Mueller in 2012 to become the special agent in charge of the San Diego division of the FBI. And her specialty includes surveillance, technical assets, counterintelligence, and activities in the FBI, cyber activities. So Pete said that she had promised him that with his participation in Operation Outruck, he would gain more viewership, and complained about being attacked on all fronts, that computers were being hacked, information was being compromised, documents were being removed from his computer. He wasn't sure what damage, but the FBI was supposed to send someone to run a scan of his computer to verify what was compromised, and that had not occurred. And then he goes on to threaten them that he's going to out them if he gets outed. And the implications of this this document, in the last about 2.5, 3 weeks, starting since the trucker shutdown and the missing money and Zeta Andrews and General Ernest Lee and the Convention of the States Project and all of that being exposed, Pete Santilli came back to his show saying that everybody is just dumb and stupid, nobody will do anything, all he wants is for people to take their guns and go storm the gates on Pennsylvania Avenue, and nobody will do it. And if he's going out there saying these sort of things, admonishing his audience to commit a violent act against the government, an act of obvious aggression, the government is going to have no other choice but to respond in aggression. And if Pete Santilli is working as an informant with the FBI, that means that what he's saying right now on his show could be what the FBI wants his audience to hear. And that's very, extremely, utterly, gargantuanly dangerous. It's deadly, because his audience, if that were to happen, his audience would be the people who would be shot to death and killed in D.C., not him. And he could be trying to get people to start the violent revolution that ends in martial law for the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
That's not someone we need in the truth movement. If we're going to win this thing, we're not going to win it through bloody revolution. We're not, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Go back in history and look. Bloody revolution does not work. But I'll tell you what is working right now. Right now, according to the IMF and the World Bank, the global economy is suffering because people have stopped spending their money on access and started spending their money on only what they need to buy to live. And when you have a global economy based on consumerism to keep it going, when the consumers stop coming, it means that you have less money. And alone, in the United States alone, in that report that they put out, $3.3 trillion have been taken out of the global economy because Americans are only buying the things that they need and not spending any extra money. They're cutting up their credit cards. They're not getting new ones. They're not applying for loans. They're paying off their debt. That means that we can economically shut down anything we want any given day if we all got together collectively and decided that we were not going to put our money in the system. That is working right now, and it could work even better if we all got together and made a concentrated effort. We don't have to wait for them to implode the economy. We can control the economy anytime we want. But we have people like Pete Santilli who have contacts with the FBI who are saying that we need to go violently and with our AR-15s or whatever we have and go storm the gates at the White House. Something that is working right now is not an option, but the murder, the senseless murder of American citizens is an option.
Susanne, do you think maybe there's a twofold approach, that he's carrying information back, like collecting dossiers on other radio networks, other hosts, other truth-orientated people, as well as being a mouthpiece to the FBI's whims?
I don't know. I don't have any evidence of that, so I don't want to comment on that. I don't know.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Pete Santilli one of the people that came out against Adam Kokesh?
To my knowledge, Pete Santilli has been very supportive
okay.
of Adam Kokesh.
Okay.
Adam Kokesh's show is syndicated on his network. It's in the list of show hosts and shows, as well as he's covered and just had a gentleman who was in, I think it's the producer of Adam versus the Man. I think it's the producer. It's someone in Adam Kokesh's camp. And they were explaining what was going on with his case, how it's proceeding. So he's absolutely extremely supportive of Kokesh.
So I mean, they're pretty much got the same vision then, because Kokesh has got some of the same ideas. Go ahead, Stephen. Sorry.
I was just wondering, isn't Pete on Jeff Prince's network?
Yes, and I was on the show Karen's Corner, which is broadcast on Rents. This was an interview that was set up about 2 months ago. It just so happened to fall on the day that I released this article. So about a half an hour before the show, the host of the show said to me, well, let's talk about this, and then we'll talk about what we were supposed to talk about. And so we agreed in the back chat before the show, we would take the first segment, talk about it, and then talk about the Obamacare for the rest of the show, because that's what we were supposed to talk about. And 17 minutes or 15 minutes into the show, we were talking about the article, we were talking about the implications. I explained to the audience what I just told you, that if Pete is hooked up with the FBI and Pete is calling for a bloody revolution, that means that the FBI wants that too. And as soon as I said that, my Skype call dropped. I was hung up on, and the host was hung up on. And when we connected back up, Rents did not connect. And Rents Radio decided that they were going to put a rerun on. They were going to an emergency commercial break. The excuse was that there's no host bashing on the show, on the network.
Yeah, isn't that just amazing? Yeah.
Well, what's interesting to me is the disclaimer on their website states that they do not censor. It's a place where free ideas and information and possibly conversive information or not arguments, but heavy discussion, debate is encouraged. And yet I was censored on the network under the guise that this was host bashing. I'm not bashing Pete. There's a document out there on a website surrounded by a bunch of other documents that ties Pete to the FBI. That's what I'm discussing. Not whether or not Pete's a nice person, not whether or not Pete is a misogynist or a racist or anything. Nothing to do with Pete's personality or his ability as a co-host or as a radio host or whatever. The document tying him to the FBI. And there was a development in the story. After I posted it, someone named Pressstorm Media sent me an email threatening me. This is the same person who was in tweet threads threatening, along with Pete Santilli, Zeta Andrews over the donation funds that were allegedly put into her personal checking account. And I'm going to get into that because Vinny conducted an interview with Zeta Andrews last night, and it's linked up at the bottom of my article. And I'll explain what she says, but let me go back to this. So Pressstorm Media sends me an email, says, data is wrong about Santilli, and I'm about to launch a national campaign with documented truth that will smear your credibility from here to the ends of the earth. I would advise taking down the article about Santilli and the FBI because I was beside Zeta Andrews and saw pictures and had video of Zeta putting money from PayPal into her personal checking account. You have until 10 p.m. tonight to either fix the article with truthful info, and publicly reprimand Susan for a complete and utter false article, or I will go public tomorrow and rather loudly with about 3 million listeners to start. Now, this person, Pressstorm Media, is actually someone who was hired because there's a Craigslist journalist for hire advertisement up on Craigslist. I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. Saying that they are a journalist and they are interested in writing for any media outlet that would be willing to hire them. And when Zeta Andrews and Vinny Eastwood were speaking last night, and it's linked up at the bottom of the article. Go check it out and watch this 22-minute video. She says something very interesting. When she set up her website for truckers to shut down America, she had her own PayPal button on. When Pete Santilli took over, she tells Vinny that Pete Santilli put together the ridefortheconstitution.org and changed the name and put a new button on the website, not her button. Now the question is, Zeta Andrews, PayPal, her personal account. The fact of the matter is, when Pete Santilli took over, a new PayPal account button was put on the website. Zeta Andrews' button was removed. That marked the end of her having access to any more donations that were being made. She was cut off at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So who had access and control over the new button? And by the way, the money is still missing.
Can I just jump in here to talk about Pete Santilli's character? Because I don't know Pete Santilli at all, Susanne, and I was researching his background today, and not just about the story, but like who he was. And the whole internet is littered with people speaking ill of his character. There's a guy that came on the show who was being muted and censored. He's treated people with disdain and disrespect. Like, there's just example after example all over the internet. He doesn't look like a nice guy, like. And just calling his character into question from other examples from other people who've documented this via screenshots of Facebook messages and other examples of other social media. But
so what you're suggesting, James, is that there's a lot of dry eyes about what has happened with this guy recently. Yes?
Not even just that, Michael. I mean, there's an example of a guy rang into a show where Dr. Judy Wood was on, and he seems to be muting the guy who has trying to question some of what Dr. Judy was saying. and they just treated him like an idiot, like, you know, and he was like, they were making out facts that weren't true about him. They muted him so that he couldn't respond. He documented it all extremely well, like the way me and you document things, Michael. You know, he took down the times of when he was muted. He showed it all. He even has Facebook messages from Pete Santilli about what happened. He said, you stopped mid-sentence. And he read it all out, and he goes, like, you know, he shows the Facebook message, the reply and all, like, you know, it's like, it's well documented, like. You know, he even put the guy's address details online and his mobile phone number, his postcode and everything, so that anybody could read it. You know, like a bully tactic. You know, it seems bullying is the way that he handles things, like.
Well, just recently, Pete had a Twitter war with a gentleman who runs the website worldtruth.org. And during the course of the tweets, Pete Santilli made comments about a little black boy showing up at a mall where his wife would be, that he was going to rape and kill her and then kill him. And this gentleman has taken these to his local police department. And currently, because he's in another state, the police department where he lives in Texas, as well as the police department in San Bernardino, where Pete is, are talking about extradition and charges, as well as the officers in Texas are agreeing to revisit the Clinton comments that he made about shooting Hillary Clinton, and view them as terroristic based on these threats that Pete made to this gentleman and his wife on Twitter, I think, a week ago.
Wow, that's the main body of the other articles, Susan. They were all threats about other people, and just from all various ranges of threats to violent to insidious comments. And, you know, this is not a guy you would expect to be in radio. I don't know, who is this guy like, you know? I don't know how he ever got radio with this attitude.
Well, I had a person leave me a message on Facebook. They were canceling their subscription to Rents Radio because of this article that I wrote, and because the Rents Network has not made a formal statement regarding the information that is out there. So the gentleman sent me the email that he received, the response back, and they said, and this is coming from, I won't say the person's name, but it's coming from a person who says they are part of the Rents Radio Network staff. So this person writes to the listener back and says, can you compile some evidence showing that Santilli is not on the up and up? The problem is that Jeff doesn't have the time to listen to Santilli's show or follow the stuff on the internet about him. So at this point, Jeff thinks Santilli is just the victim of an unfair smear campaign. He confronted gently Santilli on the claim that he stole funds that were being donated to truckers, and Santilli convinced Jeff that that was a lie. Now, there are some interesting points to what this person said representing the Rents Radio Network. First of all, they said that Jeff does not listen to Pete's show or follow anything on the internet. However, Jeff has formed an opinion that it's a smear campaign. How can you form an opinion about something you know nothing about? Secondly, they say that Jeff confronted gently Santilli on the stolen donations, and Santilli convinced Jeff that it was a lie. How was that done? Are there documents, or was it a conversation, slick kind of, you know, used car salesman kind of conversation? Dude, you know me, I would never do that. Come on, you know me, I'm Pete Santilli. I mean, are there documents to prove? Is there evidence to prove that Pete had no access to the new button that was put on the new website that he created and hosted And does he have direct documented evidence that Zeta Jones put money from that new button on the new website into her personal checking account? I don't know. And it doesn't indicate that Jeff would have seen any documentation. It just says that Santilli convinced him that it was a lie. So we have a gentleman running a major, respected aggregator, information, alternative news website, and radio network who bases their opinion on something they know nothing about and is convinced with documentation we don't know that Santilli didn't take the money from the new button on the new website. Because Zeta Andrews was cut off when he set everything up. He put a new Facebook page, a new website, a new everything. All of her donations that were going to her PayPal, that stopped the minute that he started. So someone had access to that. I mean, my husband builds websites. He puts up donation buttons on websites. The person who puts the button up on a website has access to it, as well as the person running the website. You have to, because sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes you have a button that is supposed to click to something and it doesn't go. And so you constantly have to monitor things on your website and make sure that all the buttons work. I mean, and it's just normal wear and tear of a website. A lot of these WordPress websites are not built for high traffic websites. So you'll get a website that is deteriorating, and you just have to do regular maintenance to it. Mm-hmm. The point is, somebody in Pete Santilli's camp had access to that donation button, but Zeta did not.
And you have to tell the button where to go. You need to put in. They actually have to type the information in anyway.
Yes, yeah, because it's a program on the backside of your website. When my husband does alterations to my website, I see him working in the code and writing code and changing things. So I know what it looks like. Yes, somebody manually has to do that.
Susanne, in the facts, he talks about documents on his computer like he's threatening the FBI, but I get the sense when you read the facts, you get the sense that he doesn't have the documents and he's trying to bluff. I get that feeling anyway, just from the wording and the verbiage. But what would those documents be? What documents could he have? Like, what documents would the FBI give him?
Well, he mentions his version of the story that he will come forward with, that says that they approached him and forced him into this position, and that's his version of the story. Whether or not Pete doesn't ever have any documents. He never has any proof. He only has allegations. But having said that, if he were to have documents, how long has this been going on? That was my question. If he does have documents that he can show that the FBI approached him and that they put him in a bad position, so he had to comply with them, that would have to have dates on them. So how long has he been working with the FBI? Was it when the trucker, when he got involved in the trucker shutdown? Was it when he made that incredible comment about shooting Hillary Clinton and was had a little knock at the door by the Secret Service and nothing happened to him? I mean, we've seen Brandon Robb, we've seen Blog Talk radio hosts get dragged out of their homes on air for less. And Santilli gets away with it? How long has he been with the FBI? Maybe
that was the event that they blackmailed him into, getting them to work for him.
Why? How could a member of the Truth Movement be blackmailed by the government to work for them?
The Clinton thing.
A member of the Truth Movement, someone who has a sphere of influence. Alex Jones selling out, would be a tremendous, huge, gigantic blow to the movement. Whether or not you agree with him, simply because he is what the mainstream sees as a representative of the movement. Like it or not, that's the truth. And so if it were shown that he were compromised, that he could be compromised, that at the moment of being compromised, he went along with it instead of resisting it, like we're all told to, right? We're all told in the audience to resist. Don't give in. That, you know, you're fighting for your country, you're fighting for your Constitution, you're fighting for your rights. If you don't fight now, you might as well just let them, you know, do whatever they want, because your children will have nothing to look forward to anyway.
Mm-hmm.
If the members of the alternative media, the big, influential, high-profile members of alternative media are able to be compromised by a federal agency, then that means our movement is compromised, and we have a big problem.
Susanne, this is Live Mike. Question. So you would say that there's evidence to suggest that Pete Santilli is an agent provocateur?
I am saying that there is evidence to suggest that Pete Santilli is working with the FBI for how long we don't know, and that what he is saying to his audience could possibly be agendas that the FBI want his audience to act upon. And considering just recently in the last couple of weeks, since the trucker shutdown and all that happened, he's been telling his audience to grab their guns and go storm the Bastille. Go take your guns to the Pennsylvania Avenue, and I want to walk hand in hand with Dr. Judy Wood into the White House after everybody's gone. That is probably a situation that might end up in a lot of people dying and martial law. And that seems like a pretty good excuse to go ahead and lock us all down. If the Patriot movement, if the Truth movement, if the Constitutionalist movement has become radicalized and violent.
Susan, going back to these documents for a moment that he supposedly has in order to prove his point that the FBI positioned him or cornered him into some big pickle. Don't you think that's kind of clumsy for an organization that sanitizes everything they do?
They do stupid things all the time. I've written a lot of articles following their patsies when they come out in the news. And every single time I look into this, they have a handler. The handler provides all the equipment to build the bomb, piece of paper and a pencil to write their manifesto, a video camera so they can record it, and drives them to the location. And it's all in mainstream articles, and they talk about it like it's a cool thing.
Don't forget about the Quran, too.
Yeah, they hand them everything that they need. The gentleman who was going to bomb the Fed in New York, that's a prime example. It was all over in CNN, in ABC, in MSNBC. I couldn't believe it. They were saying it directly that they gave the handler's name. And this was the guy who drove him there, and this was the guy who drove him to the docks where they built it in an abandoned dock, and then they went to the store to get more parts because they needed more parts, and it's right there. This is how they do it. Pete identifies what could be his handler, Daphne Hearn, who was handpicked by Robert Mueller, former director of the FBI.
I think the FBI is just going to use him as much as they want, as long as they can, and when he's burnt, they're just going to let him burn, and they're going to laugh at the aftermath because they'll just see it as damaging internet radio, because this is obviously a war on internet radio. This is a war on truth and information. Yeah,
what people have to remember is there's a document called Right-Wing Extremism, and I wrote an article dissecting that document. The document was published in 2009 from the Department of Homeland Security to the Obama administration executive branch. And in that report, it stated that right-wing extremism is the name of the report. We've all heard it. The article that I wrote about it was how the DHS planned to deal with the Patriot movement, and I suggest everybody read this because it's a serious thing. When I dissected the article, I saw that they were talking about infiltrating what was becoming the alternative media that we know today back when the Murrow building was destroyed, and they blamed Timothy McVeigh. They are actively looking for a right-wing constitutional patriot to become violent, an organization along those lines to become violent and radicalized as an excuse to bring down martial law. And it says it right there in that document. And when I saw this stuff with Pete Santilli, that's what made me freak out. Because I thought, oh my God, what if it's happening? What if 10 years from now we look back at this and say, oh my God, that's when it happened. That's when it started. And nobody did anything at the time. I'm just saying that we need to take a look at this. As a movement, as a group of people who agree that we accept that there are common enemies, we all need to take a look at this, because if somebody is compromised, whoever they are touching, whatever movement they get their hands in, can be compromised, and that is extremely dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I'm kind of speechless. James.
Yeah, it's just mind-blowing. It's just mind-blowing, the whole thing. I mean, you know, what's the response with the American public, Susanne?
Everyone who has read the article is not... I have not heard any negative comments that don't come out of Santilli's camp. Mm-hmm. And it was one or two comments that I had to block and delete, and as soon as I went to their profile on Facebook and saw how many of Santilli's people that they're friends with, it was blatantly obvious that this was just, trolling.
Sure.
So everyone else has, like I said, I've taken a lot of phone calls over this and spoken to a lot of people about this, and they are interested in knowing whether or not this is true, which I think is a great thing. We need to further investigate this. Is there any more information? Does anyone else have any other documents that can be put out on the Internet?
Sure. Well, myself and Michael have growing concerns over certain individuals that are close to and involved in Internet radio. We've questioned their identity, their background. We can't really speak much about it, other than to say that, we've got growing concerns over a number of people. People in Internet radio, for example, and truth movements of all various networks. But, they just need to be vigilant, just need to be vigilant to who people are and what they're doing and what they're saying, and you don't need to be paranoid. You don't need to be. Maybe you want to come in there, Michael, with that as well.
I don't know what happened to Michael, but
I'm sorry about that, folks. I had my my microphone muted. I apologize for that. Yeah, I'd like to agree with everything James just said and corroborate what he said. We have done a pretty good investigation of various members of alleged truth movement radio-type hosts, and we're surprised at our findings.
Myself and Michael do question everything. That's something we do, and even tonight, looking into the background of this, I asked an individual who knows Pete Santilli, and they just really don't want to even look at the evidence. That's what I get from that's the impression I get. I don't want to even say who that is, but they don't want to look at the evidence. They've accepted it one way or the other without looking into it properly, But I think sometimes people are lackadaisy, or I think some people just think that, oh, I'm in the truth movement, and somebody says that statement, that's it, that's all you need to do. It's okay, we're going to get somebody who's going to do good. And
Can I mention something? I'd like to reference an article. There was an article that came out. I consider the source. It's from the trenchesworldreport.com. And in that report, detailed an alleged DHS insider that mentions a program entitled Cyber Warriors for Obama. This is not a political thing. This isn't Democrat or Republican. I don't believe in parties. I think they're a joke. It's an illusion. They're both owned and controlled by the power elite. But anyway, the point is, that this Cyber Warriors for Obama, this is a plan to send out their people into the Internet. This is a group of people, let me just read it to you. It says, I'll just read you the quote. It says, "These kids or young people, I believe, are known collectively as Cyber Warriors for Obama." The subheading was, "And the truth shall set you free." Truth question, really question. They were hired on their hacking abilities, or more precisely, on their abilities to make postings through proxy servers and effectively use alternative identities and multiple email addresses. Their purpose is to spread disinformation, not truth. There were also motivational statements on various pages, including one that referred to Obama as the Pharaoh of the Internet, which I thought was an odd characterization. Final few sentences, here they are. But what's important is that suddenly, through the use of Internet aliases, multiple email addresses, and screen names, a project that employs 3,575 people will have the appearance and effectiveness of maybe 10,000 or more different people. So the point is that there is a plan afoot, according to this document, to send people out into the truth movement and elsewhere to sow seeds of disinformation, and I'm sure to do other nefarious things. But there you have it.
Well, I wrote an article last year about CIA-sponsored trolls monitoring social media and getting into the comment threads, and you're absolutely correct. There are pockets there's one in Georgia where they hire people and their job is to sit on a computer for 8 hours a day and go into comment threads and put in adversarial comments, because they know that people reading the comment threads will be swayed by negative comments before they will be swayed by positive comments. They've done studies on this. In fact, there was one done in China just recently when they were rewriting their cyber laws. And the study showed that people are more swayed by negative comments than they are positive ones. So the NSA has a program where they're actively looking for and recruiting from IT colleges hackers. And then they, I found in Georgia, this CIA center who is also working with the DIA. And this woman's name is Lene Williams. She's former CIA clandestine service trainee and DIA analyst, also worked with the FBI and the CIA, and she would troll social media sites to discredit information disseminated on the web. That was her job.
Susan, what's your take on some of the reports that are out there, especially in the Patriot community? A lot of people have the impression that within the alphabet agencies out there, there are factions. There's good guys and bad guys. What's to say that Mr. Santilli isn't being put up by the dark side, if you will?
Well, if Pete Santilli could be compromised by a member of any alphabet agency, whether good, bad, or indifferent, that is a problem. That in itself is a problem.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm just asking the question because there's a lot of Patriot people out there that have these impressions, and we need to address them.
Oh, I absolutely agree. My questions go around some of the into the less obvious realms, I guess. If Pete is working with the FBI, then is he reading off scripts to his audience? Is he saying what they want him to say? How long has he been working with them? What other operations was he involved in? Were there other operations, not just the out-truck?
Mm-hmm.
He's came out with some pretty strange statements as well, hasn't he? Not just the one about taking the guns to Washington, like, with the public, but he's come out with some strange things, like.
Oh, extremely strange. And it's been told to me from members of the alternative media that, it's shock, it's sensational, and that's how he wants to run his show. That doesn't make any sense to me. Because in this movement, the journalists, the radio hosts, we are trying to gather information about what's going on in our world that is not readily available to the public and then disseminating that information out. What room is there for shock entertainment, Howard Stern type journalism in a movement that is trying to disseminate truth and factual information?
Well said, Suzanne. Well said.
Very well.
I think what it's going to do is it really will send shockwaves through the entire truth movement. And I think what you're going to see is, I think you're going to see lines drawn between those individuals, as you just described, and those people that are sincerely dedicated to truth. I think the fear mongers, so to speak, like Alex Jones and others. I don't know if you want to throw Mark Dyson to that, or Mr. Green from AMTV, or others of his like him. But I think that those kind of people are going to be marginalized in the truth movement, or at least I hope that they are.
Well, the response that I've gotten from the people in the truth movement who have contacted me about this is that it's infighting, and we don't do infighting. And I say, look at the document. Let's go further. Let's try and get more information. Let's see what's going on here. No, it's infighting. We don't do infighting. Why is it okay to expose Obama and his connections, and Hillary Clinton and her connections, and Bill Gates and his connections, but it's not okay to expose a possible connection between someone in the truth movement and the FBI, simply because it's labeled infighting? When they label it infighting, they're doing the same thing that the government does. They're giving it a name that has a certain connotation to the audience, and so it is immediately rejected, even though the information is valid and it should be looked at and verified and vetted and searched for more. Every individual person who's seen that should have done all of that I did when I wrote the article. But they're not. They're calling it infighting and walking away. And that, to me, what room is there in the truth movement? Are we only allowed to expose certain corruption? Is other corruption not able to be exposed because it's taboo and we just don't do infighting?
Mm-hmm.
Am I being censored by the movement because I'm exposing someone who might be tied to the FBI, might be a plant?
Absolutely not. I love what you're saying, Suzanne. Keep up the good work.
I'm just asking questions, and I don't like the answers I'm getting from the people that a lot of the audience members go to their websites and attend their rallies and are part of their organizations. I don't like the answer. Nobody is willing to look at the document and say, I'm going to look this up for myself and see if I can vet this, or no, it's just infighting, and we don't do infighting.
Suzanne. Sorry, Stephen, go ahead.
Well, as we know, sex sells, and the fear porn sells too. And the people that follow the fear porn are going to protect that fear porn source no matter what. Even as the FBI leads them to the FEMA camps.
Well, sure, there's a lot of money to be made. The audience forgets about this. The alternative industry is a billion-dollar industry, and it is dependent on a lot of fear. It's like the medical community when they tell you to go ahead and get chemotherapy that has a 4% success rate, and they don't tell you anything about Gerson therapy, which is a 99.9% success rate, and no deadly chemicals are involved.
Mm-hmm. James, were you going to say something?
Yeah, sure. Susanne, did you say you did a background check on him? Did you come up with anything in the background check? Anything interesting on that?
In the background check,
For people?
there is a civil case where he got into a fist fight with a fire marshal, and then he went and sued the fire marshal. There was a breaking and entering at a location, one of the 9 residences that he owns. The property had been repossessed by the bank, and so he and another person were arrested. He spent 19 days in jail before he was released on bail because the person could not make the bail. He did a fix and flip that went bad with in Georgia, in Cobb County, and there was a suit, a judgment against him, and he skipped town.
Yeah.
He was involved when he and I were still working together. He mentioned to me that he was involved with a friend of his at a bank had properties of foreclosed homes that had gone into foreclosure, had been foreclosed on, but were not released to the MLS database where all the realtors get the listings. These were held back, and for a couple $1,000s, Pete was able to acquire properties and do a fix and flip thing. But these were foreclosed homes, so that's kind of shady. And he did that under the Santilli and Associates, which is registered as a broker on the Better Business Bureau, but registered as the private or public benefit LLC for the state of California Secretary of State website. So there is fraud, there is criminal activity, and when I looked into his background as a Marine, I thought it was very interesting. He was a Lance Corporal, which is the lowest rank that you can possibly get. He was an aviation ombudsman,
Wow.
which translates to, just for the listeners, when a plane comes in, he will go to the plane, take the boxes off the plane, put them on a cart or on a truck, and then they go to where they're going. Pete claims that he was involved in conventional weapons being moved across the country. That's absolutely not true, and I've had to retract information in articles that I wrote about that because the information was just not accurate.
Wow.
As well as a Lance Corporal being the lowest rank that you can be in the Marine Corps would never have been given top secret clearance like he claims to work on documents on Rex 84. Pete claims on his LinkedIn page that he went to Yale University. The background check that I ran, he went to a technical school right out of, he left the Marines in 1988, enrolled in a technical school, cashed in his GI Bill, and then quit 6 months later. So he didn't go to Yale College. In fact, several Yale University members got together and wrote a letter and demanded that he remove that from LinkedIn.
So what's this guy doing in the truth movement?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think he knows the concept of the word truth. I'm just reading online. It's funny because somebody else has looked into his background, and I'm looking at here, Susanne, and they say about he was a gas jockey in the Marines. He was low level, like you said. He doesn't have security clearance. He claimed to have attended law school for a year, and that didn't happen as well. Somebody also found that as well separately, Susanne. They say he runs his operation out of a mailbox, that he's claimed to have donated $2,500 to the Ron Paul campaign, and the Federal Election Commission shows no such donation from any Santilli or PAC group. And it goes on and on. There's that whole list of claims that have been found out to be false.
Yeah, it's a Rancho oh God, I can't remember. In Victorville, I'm sorry. It is. If you Google the address, you will see a 24-hour fitness and then a little mailbox shop, and it's right there. That's the address that he uses. And he also claims that his legal attorney is LegalZoom.
Wow. Guy is just... Oh, this is like mind-bending that this has gone on so long. But I guess it's taken something like this to break. Some people get to speak out about somebody, but... Has he had a stranglehold on people? Does he have like a position of power, like in the radio network, or?
Well, he had a show on the Republic Broadcasting Network, RBN. He then had a show on AFR. He now has a show on Rents. He does have a loyal following of listeners. It's not very big. His Alexa ranking is very low. But he told me when we were working together that he wanted to be the Howard Stern of alternative media, so I assume that he is trying to get as big as humanly possible.
Wow, well, he's kind of made a mistake now, hasn't he?
Yes. I downloaded the recordings because he's restricted access to his website and his Spreaker archives. You can't download them, so you have to download it while it's live. But the whole interchange between him and the members of the 4chan was he was so rude to them. He was so mean. He didn't have to be, Yeah. And I am so grateful to them for doing this. I am absolutely so grateful that they were able to bring forth information that nobody else could bring.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what's funny is when he was on his show last week, he was trying to get his audience to be sympathetic toward Hal Turner.
Wow.
And so I went and watched a couple of documentaries on Hal Turner, showing, footage from the time, listening to his broadcast. The man was a racist, sexist, diabolically, vulgar pig. And he wants his audience to have sympathy for the gentleman? I don't get it.
He seems very like a narc. I don't know this guy. I'm in Ireland, and I'm over the UK in Ireland, and I'm outside this whole situation here. Like, I'm looking in, and from what I've seen, from what's happened, and what I'm reading, and what I'm being told, and it just seems like a very narcissistic, egotistical person, like what we're describing here. Who lied about a whole host of things, like, and wasn't true to what he said he was. I think ego is a big part of this whole thing for this guy.
I would agree. Absolutely, I would agree. I mean, if you just listen to the way that he speaks to his co-host, we were listening to his show yesterday to see if he would say something about what was going on, because my article went out on, when did I publish this?
Late Tuesday night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah. And so, 2 days ago. So, I was, hoping that he would respond to this. What does he have to say about this? And the way that he spoke to his co-host when he was fumbling around with stuff and cutting her off, asking her to talk, cutting her off, it was ridiculously misogynistic. And I just don't understand why people don't see this. I mean, I had problems with some of the things he would say. I would tell him on the air, you can't say that. Don't say that. That's not funny. He made a comment when we were on the air about strapping one of Obama's children to a drone. I said, you don't say that. That's not cool. It's not the daughter's fault that their father is a douchebag, and you don't kill children. And that's ridiculously, you don't say that on the air.
Yeah, Susan, I wonder, could you get in a little bit, could you get in and talk a little bit about this whole trucker deal, and what effect did Pete Santilli have on that entire trucker engagement?
It became a fiasco. Zeta was the day before the trucker shutdown. What bothered me looking into it was General Lee. Someone sent me some information and a video that General Lee made, and I watched it. And so I went to look up this person and see who this person is. And I ended up on the Convention of the States Project website, where General Lee spoke in an RT interview about this. And so when I went to look them up, I found incredible information about who runs this group. Mark Meckler is the president, and he was the former finance director of the Tea Party Patriots. In fact, he was the gentleman who took the bribe money from the Koch brothers and subsequently resigned from his position, now heads the Convention of the States Project. And it states on their website, with General Ernest Lee being the grassroots ambassador, that they are thrilled that he will be participating in the Ride for the Constitution event, because he will be speaking about their rhetoric for the Convention of the States Project to get people involved. The Convention of the States Project want to and are supporting a civilian coup of the government, which sounds a lot like what Pete's been saying lately. When that information came out, Pete made a comment on his show that Mark Meckler had spoken to General Lee and told General Lee not to participate with Pete Santilli. Pete Santilli is a bad guy. He doesn't want to get involved in him. However, it says on their website that they are absolutely thrilled that General Lee is joining the movement, because he will be able to speak to all of the people at the event about the Convention of the States Project and get new recruits. Pete is just... what's funny about Pete, the part that really cracks me up about it, is that he makes these statements on air, and they can easily be refuted. And yet, very few people actually take the 10 seconds to find the information on the internet and refute them. He made a comment about me being paid by Hillary Clinton. There's no proof of that, and it's not happening. But that wasn't the case. He was discussing that I was trying to hide Hillary Clinton's involvement in Benghazi and the death of Christopher Stevens. It's funny because last year I'm the one who broke the story that Hillary Clinton was directly involved in Stevens' death. And so I went into my website and found just 7 articles off the top, just a quick search in my website, posted those articles, and those articles actually ended up on the show. As Pete was saying this, somebody sent him these links, and his response was, "I don't care what the links say, I'm telling you the truth."
Wow.
Susanne, can I ask you a question about content? Adam Kokesh was advocating an armed march inside the District of Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there's a similarity to what Adam Kokesh and Pete Santilli have been saying?
Adam Kokesh wanted a revolution. He wanted an armed show of force. He was saying that this was the Second American Revolution that he was kicking off. And Pete is telling his audience that they're a bunch of dum-dums because they won't get their guns and go stand in front of the White House on Pennsylvania Avenue and demand that everybody vacate the premises. It sounds similar.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
The problem I go back to whether or not he is an FBI informant. Is he saying what the FBI wants him to say? Is anyone else saying that too?
Mm-hmm.
How deep does this go? Have we been infiltrated and we just don't know it? Are we being used as a pawn, like they said in that right-wing extremism report that was put together in 2009, that they were going to radicalize a group of constitutionalists? And that would be a way to kick off martial law? Because we're all waiting for martial law here in the United States. Everyone keeps asking me when it's going to happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
But now when I see this coming out and I hear what Pete's saying, I start to wonder, oh my God, are we going to be the ones that cause our own demise? And we just don't know it. And for the sake of calling it infighting, we are refusing to take legitimate time to pause and ponder this information, because if we're infiltrated, we need to get it out now. Otherwise, we're all done for.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Can I share with you a comment that I have from a listener presently? One of our listeners from Revolution Radio has left a comment. May I share it with you?
Oh, absolutely.
This listener says that Pete Santilli turned me off the day we interviewed Zeta and him on Terry Ackerman's show. I got the impression that in spite of him saying it was supposed to be a peaceful revolution, he was pushing for a violent one. Then he totally disrespected my request that he keep the copy of the unedited call of the show private, and he broadcasted the whole thing, even the parts that weren't on air on Revolution Radio. So there's a little comment from a fellow host from Revolution Radio. Just thought you might be interested.
That's part. I would love to speak to that person, actually.
Well, I will set up a contact with you, okay?
I appreciate that, because
Okay.
I'm gathering evidence on all of his victims, and that is violation of federal and California state wiretapping laws. See, in the state where Pete resides, it's a two-party state. So anytime he makes a phone call that's recorded, he has to, at the moment the person picks up the phone, let them know that they're being recorded and give them the opportunity to end the call. He has to. He does not do that. In fact, in a recording that I have from a broadcast that he made within the last 2 weeks, he played a phone call where in the first minute and 4 seconds after the person picks up the phone, after they start talking, she asks if they're being recorded. And his response is that, would she mind if she's being recorded? And she said, no, I wouldn't mind. I want to know if I am being recorded. And he said, well, let me start the recording now. That was a minute and 4 seconds into the recording. So that is an example of violation of federal and state wiretapping laws. He cannot do that. It is illegal. And he broadcasted on the air, so he's not that bright. So I'm collecting as much evidence as possible, talking to all of his victims, getting as much documentation as possible. And I think that if this were to end up in a court case, all of these voices need to be heard, because he's hurt people as Pete Santilli, the show host. He's hurt people as Pete Santilli of Santilli and Associates. He caused one person to go into foreclosure when he promised to help them with their refi of the mortgage. So.
Well, Suzanne, I've provided you with that contact to your private Skype contact, so there you go.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I got to tell you, Suzanne, earth-shattering story. Just awesome. Thank you so much.
Just do my job,
awesome.
sir.
Yeah.
I wonder if now maybe if everybody else's numbers are going to pick up. Hopefully, a lot of us little guys.
Well, the people who are genuinely trying to stop this whole thing, and it's not just in my respective country, it's in all countries. If we are legitimately trying to stop this thing, then those people need to keep pressing forward. You know, someone who's very influential in the truth movement, radio show, website, YouTube podcast, told me, well, just because of all this infighting, I feel like I should just throw in the towel. I don't want to be part of this anymore. And I said, you got into this because you didn't want to be in a situation where you might have to be subjected to what you call infighting? That's why you're exposing the New World Order? And he said, no, I'm exposing the New World Order because it's corruption and it needs to be exposed. I said, well, then what does infighting or what you call infighting have to do with you doing your job?
Was
you can
an
do your
FBI
job any day of the
informant.
week.
Yeah.
You know, whether or not this is true, whether or not whatever Pete's doing, everyone who is exposing corruption in the truth movement, keep doing it. The truth movement infiltrated, keep exposing. We need to keep pressing forward. But we do need to take a minute and legitimately and honestly review this. But by all means, keep going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And
Suzanne.
Yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
I don't mean to seem like I'm picking on you or anything, but you said that he was a lance corporal, and then you said he was the lowest rank in the Marines. That just didn't sound right to me. I went to a couple links, and lance corporal is actually the third lowest rank in the Marines.
Oh.
But I just didn't want to seem like I was picking on you or anything.
Oh no, I'm an Air Force brat, so
Okay.
I don't know about the Marines. I'm just going by the information that I have. But
Okay.
no, I don't mind being corrected.
This came from Marines.mil, one of the two links there. But
The link that I have, Stephen, says he joined the Marines at age 17 and he dropped out at 22. He was only there 5 years. He was an E5 flight line gas jockey shuffling stuff in and off the plane, and that he did not have security clearance for loading weapons or any other.
yeah, well, I guess what it boils down to, it doesn't matter whether he was an E3 or an E5. He was a grunt. He was what was called a lumper. He wouldn't have been given anything with a class 4 or 5 classification of top secret, let alone a class, A or A1 or anything like that, or A2 or A3. Top secret.
He didn't rate that security clearance. Is that what you're saying, Steve-O?
Exactly. Not as an E5 he didn't. No. Or E3, whichever it happened to be.
Right. And my father had to get top secret clearance to go on a mission when he was in the Air Force. He went to Greenland because it was a down plane, and it was during the Cold War. And he had to jump through hoops to go on that mission. And he couldn't talk about it at all with anyone up until 2 years ago, because the documents had been declassified because there was a nuclear weapon involved. So that's humongous. And my father was a sergeant in the Air Force, and he had to jump through all of these hoops to get on this mission, and he was not a low-level rank. So I can't imagine somebody of a low-level rank being able to just magically, break their leg, and then because they're sitting at a desk, they go ahead and hand them top-secret documents.
Yeah, you normally are. I mean, you are normally right. I think the Army goes up to like E9, which is like Sergeant Major of the Army, and that's the highest NCO you can go to. I could be mistaken. Somebody might want to check that out, but normally they don't get given top clearance secret top level secrecy. They normally reserve that kind of stuff for officers.
Exactly. But a lot of people don't check it out. You can say, apparently this says something about the audience too. The way that the audience has been trained to think about things. Yes, the audience is told to do the research themselves, but they don't. It's reverse psychology. And it's also branded loyalty. When somebody becomes so big that people don't question their sources or check out the information that's being brought to them, independent of the research that they have in the article right at hand, that's a very dangerous position for the audience to be in, because they're able to be told whatever. And then, so Pete was top secret clearance and moved conventional weapons, when in reality he moved a box from one platform to another.
he seems to me to be the type of guy that likes to exaggerate the truth, or if there was even any bit of truth there, if you want to even call it, or exaggerate a story, if you want. Why would he turn around and say he donated $2,500 to the Ron Paul campaign, knowing that could be proved to be a fallacy?
I don't think that Pete thinks that anybody's going to look it up. I think that Pete has placed it in his mind that the people are only as smart as he is, and he thinks they're a bunch of dum-dums. So he doesn't think anybody's going to look up anything. And I think the reason why he's attacked me so strongly, even stronger than Vinny, is because he knows that when I go to look up something, I usually find stuff nobody else has found. So he's always been deathly afraid that I would write an article. And this is the first article I've ever written about him. And unless more information about his involvement with the FBI comes out, I don't plan on writing another one. But that was his biggest fear. And with this information coming out, I couldn't not write an article. Because my job is to expose corruption. If I didn't write this article, I'm not doing my job.
Well said.
You know, when you read the facts and you read what it says, I mean, it's like he was deeply involved. These guys. It wasn't like it was a short-term thing or had only been recent. It reads like this thing is deep and it's going on a long time. Like
a very familiar relationship, James.
Yeah, he was very cozy with them in the writing of the facts. Like, I mean, so cozy that it looked to be long term to me, extremely long term. You know, it was the way he treated them. Like, it was like, you know, he thought they were gonna. I don't know. It's bizarre. It's the way he worded the whole thing and dressed it up like and talked to them and. There was a rapport there. There was definitely a rapport there, Michael, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, James Swagger, the profiler.
As always.
Almost as though he took them for granted, James.
Yeah. I think he'd probably like the I'm trying to think of what the guy's like in his head, and I think he liked the self-importance of it, like he's working with the FBI. I think just ego. It's all it screams. The whole story screams ego to me. The way he treats people, and I'm looking at this guy that got cut off, and he hacked into he checked out his name service on his website and publicly released where the guy lived and everything just to laugh at him, and like. Just don't treat people like that, and certainly not in public image, whether you're on radio, television, or a journalist or whatever. You just don't do that. You have to have an air of professionality, and there's nothing about this guy that has professionality. So what carries him through? And it's like, just looks to be ego all the way, but he even be ego. Sorry, Michael. Just want to say, he looks to be egotistical. The way he's trying to blackmail the FBI to say, you know, help me here, or else I'm going to squeal. Like, and like, they're probably sitting laughing, giggling at the other end, going, he doesn't know what game we're playing with him. Like, the FBI are just probably giggling at him at the other end, I reckon. Like, but
James.
Sure.
I'm gonna. Dare I ask what sign is he?
I don't know. Would you believe I was thinking that 20 minutes ago what star sign he was?
Of course you were.
I would love to know. Actually, does anybody know what star sign he is?
He's an Aries.
Is he?
Oh.
I actually thought that because of the warmongery that we were talking about and the confrontation. Now I know another Aries in the audience here tonight, Michael, don't I? Michael doesn't like the confrontation, but not in that way. Michael is very intellectual about his confrontation, Mike, and it's well founded confrontation, I will say.
Hang on, James. Let me bring up Kevin Annette real quick.
Yeah, there goes Mike. All right. But you know, I was going to say this. I think, Susan, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the Patriot community was almost, or the truth community, which most of them are one and the same. When you start to really break it down, you're talking about a lot of really desperate people that are reaching out for any variety of truth that might come out. And when a guy like Pete Santilli, who's very powerful in the way that he proclaims things, comes forth, it's probably really easy for those people to get suckered into believing every word that he says. Wouldn't you say?
Well, I wrote an article about crowd psychology because I was concerned about that same thing, and I was interviewing Storm Cloud's Gathering, and we started talking about Gustave Le Bon, who is the father of crowd psychology, and whose work was integral in Edward Bernays and even Sigmund Freud. So what Gustave Le Bon said about crowds reminded me a lot of some of the audiences on some broadcasts that I've been on. And it really has to do with the host of the show. But what Le Bon said was a crowd goes through 3 stages: submergence, contagion, and suggestion. At the first stage, the individuals lose their sense of individuality and their sense of personal responsibility. Research shows that this occurs because the sense of anonymity to the individual that is fostered by the crowd itself, which means people think that because they're in a crowd, they can't be singled out individually, and they will start to behave in ways that they normally wouldn't behave. The second stage reveals the propensity of the individual to follow the crowd unquestioningly toward a directed set of goals and emotional responses that overpower the individual's personal knowledge of right and wrong. And the third stage, uncivilized behavior overtakes the crowd as a wave through the individual's unconscious because of a single person's beliefs or ideas, which can be implanted into the crowd and adopted by all individuals. So at that point, that's when somebody stands up. If there's a huge crowd in the middle of the street, someone stands up on the hood of a car and says, "Hey, let's go storm, let's go break things." Somebody throws a Molotov cocktail, somebody hits out a storefront window, and then all of a sudden you have mass chaos, you have rioting, you have people getting beat up in the streets. The people in the crowd are normal, everyday people. And when you are under crowd psychology and mob mentality, if someone rises up, you're absolutely going to follow whatever they say. And so these techniques are very dangerous. And I've seen Pete and heard Pete, not seen, but heard Pete on the radio using these techniques. And it's very bothersome to me because the loyal listeners will literally, regardless of, that's probably why, I forgot which one of you mentioned speaking to someone in Pete Santilli's camp that just refused to even look at the documents because they're under the spell. Exactly,
Susanne, under the spell. Either in denial, don't want to know, or under the spell.
Because if Santilli is an FBI informant, everyone who is personally involved with him, they have to then question their personal identity.
Yeah, their values.
And the audience has to question their personal identity because they have been following him. They are personally invested in him, whether they've given him money or not. Their personal, who they are, their identity is involved in him if he is a major influence in their life. So for this to come out, that says something about them, and people will defend, even if they're wrong, their sense of identity to the death.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it actually kind of makes you feel bad for some of those people that you know are true patriots, and I'll name one because I've been following him for a while, and I loved what the guy says, and that's Colonel Roy Potter. Unless you know something I don't know, but I'm just saying that I hate to see guys like this get rubbed through the mud because of their affiliation with Pete Santilli.
Well, when Vinny and I put out the video, I was very vocal about that. I don't think that people who show up on Pete Santilli's show know about this. It might be that nobody in the camp knows about this. It might be that only certain people know about this. I don't know who knows about it. other than Pete. So I don't think that anyone should question the validity of any person who has been guested on his show unless evidence has been brought forth to prove otherwise. There are a lot of great people who are doing good works who have shown up on his show, and they need to continue those good works. And if they are sullied by this, it's unfortunate that the audience would take that turn, because we should only at the point of evidence and having documents, having video, having audio, be able to make a firm decision about something, not just because of an association. Because it may just be that that person showed up on the show simply to talk to a new audience. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are people who are trying to fight legislation on the state level. Of course they want to talk to as many audiences as possible. And those people are doing great work, fighting the tyranny in this country. And I don't think that they should be harmed, or any journalist or any truther who shows up on his show, that they should be harmed by this, because there's no evidence that they were involved.
Can I go back to the facts a minute? He alludes in the facts, this is what gets me, he alludes into the facts that his ratings is dropping, right? But he was supposed to gain ratings. How is the FBI going to help him gain ratings? This is for everybody, I guess. Like, what's the idea behind that? How are they going to help him get ratings?
Well, James, look at the who was it? The whistleblower he had just on recently. Who's had a story as big as that? I don't know. It was like a month ago. Jones didn't get this guy. Brents didn't get him.
From the guest, everybody.
I'm sorry?
Whistleblower, I don't know. Is he a whistleblower? Who is the whistleblower?
I don't know who the guest was. It just something flashed across a Facebook thing, and I don't know what it was now, but it was.
Well,
somebody that was big.
I know Steven, he's recently had that Susanne Posel on his show. And that's a big whistleblower.
Wow.
True.
That's me.
Yeah, that's her.
Okay. Another thing, it's the fact that he's crying about losing viewership to the FBI. Isn't it what I say, the ego narcissistic thing? I mean, he's crying about not having viewership. I should be the least of this guy's worries. You know?
If he's concerned about viewership, then he's concerned about ratings. If he's concerned about ratings, then he's concerned about advertisers. If he's concerned about advertisers, then what is he putting forth?
Yeah.
Why is he doing this?
It's money. It's all money to him. He's in it for self-gain, if you ask me.
Bingo.
Self-gain and self-preservation. Self-obsessed.
Well, I feel really, I know you might think this is crazy, but I kind of feel sorry for the guy right now, because, I mean, there ought to be a 24-hour suicide watch for this guy right now, because he's not going to be able to do anything with his name.
Michael Burke.
He's finished. He's finished.
We're going to have a chat with you later, Michael.
What's that? I can't help it. I actually feel, yeah.
As long as he's on the air, he's not. Mm-hmm. He's still influencing people. He's still dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate.
I just think that this story just eviscerates his credibility. And I don't think he'll ever be able to do anything ever again and be believed. I mean, you have to be a mind-numbed zombie to believe what this guy has to say now. Yeah. After the good work that you've done, Suzanne.
He's on damage control. The thing is, he's reacting to this situation as well like he's on damage control. He's not reacting like an innocent civilian, that had something smear campaign. He's reacting like this is true, and he's reacting like he's on damage control, trying to self-preserve as a little empire, and it's ridiculous. He couldn't be any more obvious in his actions, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's what he did on the show today. He says, I'm not going to talk about things that aren't true. Okay, well, That doesn't make it go away. If you have a cut and you don't treat it and you get gangrene and you have to chop off your arm because of this little cut, all you had to do was clean it up and put a Band-Aid on it, then you get what you get.
Sure.
I know a lot of us were paying a lot of attention to that trucker deal on Washington. And I, for one, I was tuned into his show, listening very intently, and boy, it's just in a way it's very devastating to hear this information come out, because just when you think you're getting somewhere, Susan.
Well, I was writing an article that day, following what he was saying and following the reports in the mainstream and other reports coming out of from the truckers and YouTube videos that were popping up. And both the people who attended the event and the mainstream media both talked about other protesters, that the two converged, that the trucker protest and the protest on the World War II memorial converged.
The Million Vet March,
yeah.
Is that what it was?
That's the one that's coming up. That's the one that Pete is trying to get going. People who are veterans get their guns and go to D.C.
That's exactly what they want, Suzanne. That's
the
excuse that would spring the trap of.
It says it right there in that 2009 document. Go read it. It's linked up in several of my articles, and the DHS, how the DHS plan to deal with the Patriot movement, just put that in a search and read my article, because everything that I said in that article about extreme right-wing, what they classify us as right-wing and constitutionalists and veterans, this all has to do with what's coming out of his mouth for the last week. But the other protesters that were at the event were the ones that ended up taking the barricades and dropping them off in front of the Pennsylvania Avenue, right, in front of the White House. Those other protesters were the only people that Pete was reporting on, and he tweeted about this. He was so excited that these protesters went and did this. And everyone, including the truckers and mainstream media, all said that this was a group of people that seemed like they didn't belong to the group, but yet they were harassing the police.
Wow.
They were trying to start fights with the cops that were there.
Wow.
The cops didn't arrest them, but they were trying to get some sort of brawl started. And they were taking the barricades and dropping them off in front of the White House, and no one else was participating in that. Just these other protesters.
Smokes.
Exactly. The man is dangerous. I'm trying to warn people. He's dangerous. Look, I don't like the man, okay? Everybody knows that. It's not about that. The man is literally dangerous. There is evidence that needs to be further examined, and more evidence needs to come out. I mean, if somebody went into his hard drive, they've got to have other documents. He's talking about documents that he saved to protect himself that he was supposed to delete in that fax. So what other documents are there, correspondence between him and the FBI? Because if this is not enough to prove a point, then we need more. Because apparently the people who are running the show in alternative media claim that this is all infighting and refuse to look at the documents.
In fairness, Susan, the FBI probably knows he's been lying since his early days in the Marines, so they're not going to believe the facts.
Well, that's true, but, whether they're emails or documents does he have from them? If they've been chatting for even 2 days, there's got to be more than this document out there. And like I said, if there's an infiltration in the alternative media, who wouldn't want to know?
Yeah, that's a good point. And really, it doesn't just go back even further than that document that you're referencing. I mean, if we go back to the MIAC report, right, that the what was it, the Missouri police put out back in 2008? Because I remember
a Missouri sheriff.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because I remember that particular year, 2008. I ran here for a political office, a public utilities commissioner for the Constitution Party, and I remember being warned not to travel with a Chuck Baldwin bumper sticker on the back of the vehicle because I might be pulled over. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on even back then.
Oh, sure. And right now police are being trained on how to deal with sovereigns or constitutionalists when they pull them over and what to look for in speech and in demeanor and in identification that they offer you or don't offer you or don't have. And they're trained to look for evidence that someone is a sovereign or a constitutionalist or a part of Oath Keepers or any of those other groups.
And they're now on the enemies list, Suzanne?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of weird because we've all been on an enemies list since 1944.
Right, but they're assessing threat levels at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone who is on a list, their threat level has been assessed, whether that's benign or acute. So the people who are willing to actually get up and do something, they already know whether or not they are a registered gun owner. They know whether or not what their background is, what their education level is, how much money they make. Those people are the people who are being monitored. Absolutely. The people who just, are listening to alternative media or participating in alternative media because it's fun or because they couldn't get a job somewhere else, so they had to do this out of their garage. Those people are not a threat unless they have a sphere of influence. And I brought this up because I was vacationing, and so I was staying in a hotel, and I was watching television. We don't have television in my house. We had just threw it away. Don't watch it.
Smart move.
Yeah, it was 7 years ago. I saw a PSA from Tim McGraw telling people not to text and drive. Now, I don't think you should text and drive. However, I thought it was interesting that Tim McGraw is now telling people what to do. And then right after I saw the PSA, I saw an Aveeno ad with Jennifer Aniston. And I thought, she's gotten to the point in her career where now she's hawking Aveeno? And I realized, here's what's going on. When a celebrity of any capacity, including media, has a sphere of influence, a certain group of people who will do whatever they say, they know that statistically speaking, there's X amount of people who are going to buy Aveeno simply because Jennifer Aniston told them to. And they know that there's a certain amount of people, statistically speaking, who will stop texting and driving simply because Tim McGraw told them to. And it's the same in every media. If you have a radio show or a website that is popular, you have a sphere of influence over your audience. And if you can be compromised under that sphere of influence, then everyone who's listening to you is now under the control of whoever's controlling you. So whoever's controlling Tim McGraw and whoever's controlling Aniston could be the same people who are controlling any other person, or any faction could be controlling any person who has any sense of celebrity or any sphere of influence. So when all of a sudden this meme comes out in alternative media that the only answer is violent revolution, that we've exhausted all of our other efforts and the only way to get through this is to take our little guns and go fight somebody who has possibly, directed energy weapons or anything else. They have LRADs. LRADs cook you. They cook you. You don't want to be anywhere near that.
Yeah, the microwave.
And your AR-15 is going to do anything for you if they're cooking you?
Get yourself a sophisticated Faraday cage. There's nothing else you can do.
You're advocating putting yourself in a cage, Michael?
A very specialized cage that will diffuse those kinds of waves, yes. Otherwise, you're getting cooked.
So when we see a wave of people in cages, we know that that's Michael's people.
There you go.
Speaking of,
they also have technology that can. They have some kind of a sound wave device that just makes you nauseous and makes you. It renders you impotent. You just kind of laying on the ground there.
Yeah, they use that during the Occupy Wall Street protests around the country. with that high-pitched sound, and it made people's ears bleed.
Didn't they demonstrate some of these devices at was it the G20 summit in Pittsburgh or someplace?
Probably so.
Recently.
Yes.
Oh, NATO. Are you talking about the NATO summit?
It might have been. Yeah, perhaps it was the NATO summit. It was. I think it was Pittsburgh.
Well, that was a 2009 G20.
Oh, yeah. That one.
Right.
I remember seeing some of these contraptions that they had.
Yeah.
Was that Toronto?
No, Pittsburgh.
Oh, it was Pittsburgh.
Yeah. You can find footage of it.
Some of Jones's people covered that, and they had to deal with that kind of stuff.
I'm sure. Yeah. You seen the video of the big DARPA dogs?
Yes.
Have you seen Atlas?
Yes.
I have. There was a movie from, I think it was the 1980s. It was called Saturn III with Kirk Douglas and Farrah Fawcett. Harvey Keitel was also in this movie, and this robot was named Hector. And by God, if it's not exactly what that thing was, it's uncanny how precise the robotics of what they have created today. It's spooky stuff. It really is.
It is. They're building an Iron Man suit that will have retina scanning capabilities, as well as working with
infrared.
Yeah, and it will be able to tap into the mind of the soldier. And it will be fitted directly for the soldier, not just physically, but if you are not that soldier and you put on the suit, you can't activate it. It is specifically designed for that soldier. And it's an Iron Man suit.
Unbelievable.
When they come up with a Spider-Man suit, I'm interested.
Are you kidding me? They have a flippin' Iron Man suit.
Unbelievable.
Next, they need that invisible plane that Wonder Woman drove around.
Wonder Woman plane, yeah.
How could you find it? That's my question.
I don't know. It was here. I parked it. I don't know where it went.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff. And here's the thing. Here's the good news though. It facilitates somebody on a joystick or somebody pushing a button to make it work. A lot of this stuff. So as long as we have some, I hate to say it, but as long as we have some people that won't take an order for an unconstitutional order, maybe we're okay.
Invalid.
Well, we got a lot of gamers, so
yeah. I know. That's right. We have a culture of shoot 'em up gamers that would probably love to have the position of a drone pilot, wouldn't you say?
Oh, that is the most sought after position in the Navy and the Air Force and Army too, I believe, as far as trying to, get the position of drone operator. It's the #1 position that is being sought after right now.
Of course it is. You get paid to play video games all day?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yep.
And it seems like it's the first position that deserves a rope. Never mind.
A rope?
Yeah, I won't
Well, these are people who listen to mainstream, chew aspartame, drink fluoride, eat GMO,
Sir,
eat
yes, sir.
burgers at please, you can't. They just bought the iPhone 5S, even though we know that the NSA is spying on us, and they put their own frickin' fingerprint down, so now they don't have to get arrested. The NSA already has their fingerprint. This is who we're dealing with. So you can't really fault them. It's like getting mad at my 2-year-old because she can't do calculus.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody trying to bring up Revolution Radio, are they?
This was the contact that I was hoping might come on. However, I'm not sure if they're going to come on or not, but I just dropped them in there for you, Rick.
Oh, okay. Well, it looks like they're dropping. So.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's still a little more than 7 minutes left in the broadcast. James, we haven't heard from you in a while. I'm sure you got something to say about Arius or Sagittarius or something.
Actually, I'm talking to a fellow Cancerian here.
Stradivarius.
sidetracked. I've been I've been doing other things. Yeah, I'm just thinking about the whole thing. I'm glad we had the show tonight, guys. I really am. I think I got a lot out of it. I got a lot of perspective, and I think I'm going to be a lot more vigilant. I'm vigilant anyway. It's like I say, guys, I profile everybody that comes into my path, whether that's through Skype, radio, Facebook, immediate vicinity, knocks my door. I don't care. It's like I want to know everything about the person, and I'm like that because that's the type of person I am. I'm not paranoid, but if anybody wants to deal with me, I want to know who they are, and I think everybody should check everybody out. I think you should do it, But like you say, this guy that we're talking about tonight's got a shady background, and he's been exposed now. He really has been exposed, and I thank Susanne for coming on and sharing with us. It's been it's been a great time, and myself and Michael, we've been worried about this, for a while, and and there's people just don't see it, and I think maybe now with this event, people will see it.
Cognitive dissonance, James.
Cognitive dissonance, Stephen. Thank you.
It's a word that keeps coming up over and over and over.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, but more information will come forth, and other people will report on it. And the fact that I have bad blood with him, tainting it. Okay, fine, I get that. But when other people start doing it, I told you so. Can we remove him now, or do we still? It was posed to me that until there's information of an investigation, then there's nothing to be said. Investigations happen in the dark. I was studied as a paralegal. You work very hard to prove your case for months, possibly, and then you bring forth the charges, and then the person gets arrested. So if some people in the alternative movement want to wait until Pete Santilli is carted out in a squad car, in handcuffs, that's fine. That is going to happen. That's already in the works. So look for that. But unfortunately, fortunately, we have an opportunity to look into this person now and maybe stop a cancer from continuing to spread. Or we can just wait until he's arrested.
I think one really good thing that's going to come from this is that hosts like all of you are going to, bring this to your listenership. And when you do, I think people are going to have a much sharper critical thinking mind about everything that they hear, including the stuff that comes from us. So I think that's a good thing all around. A healthy skepticism and a critical thinking mind is exactly what we need in the age of information and disinformation.
Right, and
well said.
And it's just a word of mouth issue. Really, we all have a choice as to who we support and who we don't support. And if each one of us will, devote an episode or two of our shows to this cause, to raise awareness, I think we can make a big difference. And just a little bit at a time. None of us here are big fish. I'm certainly not a big fish. I'm a little minnow.
Speak for yourself, Rick.
Okay, James.
I'm a big giant frickin' whale, guys.
Hey, Revolution Radio. Hello.
What's up? What's going
on? We're on
Pete Santilli Day.
Yeah.
I just sent you some information in your personal box there. Sorry about that. Is it Nighthawk?
Yeah, it's Nighthawk.
Oh,
okay.
Station owner, Revolution Radio.
Yeah, all those guys. Santilli over there they're all liars anyway, man.
Yeah.
I have, and I can show you mine too, just to show you the difference. But I have all these guys' stat back doors, and their average listener base is way less than 1,000, usually more like 100. So I sent Susan on her Facebook the links to go look at their real numbers and what they actually are broadcasting to.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you.
It's from Mike Ringley. It's on my Facebook page. I'll be right back. I didn't expect this. I was just coming through the room, and I'm like, well, what's all this? Be right back.
Okay.
Well, Rick's getting ready to end in about 2 minutes here.
Yeah. This show.
Is there any way you can go over, Rick, or no?
Well, this is Blog Talk, man. They
Okay.
I could go over, Michael.
Oh, you could? Okay.
Yeah, you stay on. Stephen is taping live right now.
Cool. Now, what would happen? Would the BTR host just drop, and then you would continue, Steve-O?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
I could continue the call. I mean, I could host a call.
Excellent.
If everybody wanted to call right back.
Right, yeah, Stephen, you could just bring everybody right back.
Okay,
Couldn't you?
yep.
Yeah.
I absolutely could.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because...
Yeah, Revolution Radio, I think, has like 16 million viewers, fellows. So,
listeners, you mean?
90 seconds.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I don't have that many. We got right now we got 36,250.
Okay.
We sometimes get up around 90 to 100,000. There's absolutely nobody but Alex Jones that has the money to actually broadcast to that many listeners. I mean, it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars per month.
Bandwidth?
Yeah, bandwidth and servers. No one server.
60 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening?
Oh, it's just that British woman again. Go ahead.
Anyway, an average shoutcast server can handle a max of 5,000. I use Icecast, which handles a max of 15,000 per server, and that 15,000 practically will eat up an entire T3. You have to have like an OC8, OC12 in order to be getting like Alex Jones numbers. Yeah, he may have had 1 million people come through the website over 3 years, but you know.
Yeah, that's a valid point. I think a lot of people are exploiting the stats that they throw out. Like.
Yeah.
So what I'll do, gentlemen, is I'll end this real quick.
10
about 10 seconds. Yep, there you go. 10 seconds away. And Stephen, you can bring people in and continue. So for all of my radio show host guests, this is Rick Hidalgo. This has been another episode of the House of Hidalgo show on the Estate Radio Network. Thank you guys for coming. God bless everyone. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you.